Welcome to Wide Flank. Today's a game club. We're doing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Also, please like, subscribe, rate, review, share, all that. I can't think of more verbs, all that good stuff podcasters like to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you say smash that like
smash
button?
also. And Sean, you want to tell us a bit about the game before we dive in?
Maybe I do. I was gonna make a joke about the Great Circle. I forgot what it was though. The game was released for Xbox and computer. It's called Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and it was released for Xbox and computer in December of 2024. It's a very modern game.
Yeah.
Wide Flank gone modern. Finally, we're up to date. We're catching up.
We
with
caught
times.
up every game until now, and we're just live now.
That was part of the preparation for this, the journey of the podcast. So it's coming out. This is more basic information about the game. It's coming out for the PlayStation 5 later. It doesn't matter. Key staff on the game. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. An Indiana Jones game was initially pitched by Bethesda head Todd Howard himself to George Lucas himself. In 2009, and the director that was attached at the time of that pitch is one of the co-directors of this very game. So 15 years later, Jerk, how do you pronounce Jerk if it's a Scandinavian name?
I think we call him Jerk.
Jerk Gustafsson is the co-director. But 15 years of thinking about this game. The lead writer, which I'm calling out because I think the writing is very good. Tommy Tortzen Bjork. And the music is by Gordy Hobb, reinterpreting the classic themes of John Williams. And I just want to add, you can play this game on controller or mouse and keyboard.
And you wrote one more thing that you're reading from.
And the graphics are intense. So if your graphics card can't handle it, you should buy an Xbox. Or we spent a lot of
cloud computing.
Now we're here to talk about the good word of cloud computing. We already spent like half an hour talking about that on the GLHF, right?
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not bringing that back. But,
no.
Yeah, I mean, there's been like 15 years since the last Indiana Jones game, which I thought was also really crazy. And as I was looking it up,
is it a real game or is it the Farmville, Zynga made some Facebook game?
It's 2009 Lego Indiana Jones 2, The Adventure Continues.
That sounds kind of real.
That's real.
It's Lego.
Yeah, Legos are popular, so is Indiana Jones. So yeah, it's wild, but we're live and
well, I mean, do you want to talk? This isn't how we were gonna intro it, but do you want to talk about the video game lineage of Indiana Jones a little bit? How much do you know about it? LucasArts?
I don't know much, but I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about adapting Indiana Jones as well. Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's just start with the man himself, Indiana Jones. Let me find it in my notes. So Indiana Jones. He's a classic character of the stage of stage and screen, right? When I was a kid, I went to Disney World and I saw, because as I said stage, I was like, he's not on stage.
Yeah,
but
I think it was just screen. It wasn't just screen.
There was an interactive show at Disney World.
Okay.
Where a kid from the audience would get picked out of the crowd. And
did you get picked?
No, I don't think so. And they did the boulder sequence from anywho, not the point.
Cool.
So Indiana Jones is this big legacy character. So how do I?
Where are you going with
this?
Am
I going with this? I don't know. I'm trying to bring out a concise point. There isn't a concise point. It's just how do you adapt? Because traditionally, how do you adapt a film into a video game? There's a million different answers to that.
Yeah.
This is a film with such a specific character at the center of it. It's this really strong cultural thing that people have passing familiarity with.
And I haven't played any of the 2000s Indiana Jones games, and I haven't seen the movies in a long time, but we talked about this on the GLHF a little bit. The beginning of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is like a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders, and I think that they did that for multiple reasons. But one of them is, I think, to be like, this is the Indiana Jones that you are in the game. Like the timeline of Indiana Jones lore or whatever you want to call it is like this game happened right after Raiders.
This is this is an Indiana Jones who has experienced the film that you probably
most remember him
passing knowledge of.
And like he's very much, he looks like that Harrison Ford. His quips are like that Harrison Ford. Like it's very like they stayed really true to like the movie and the writing, I think, in both great ways.
Yeah, and I think that like that's like where the game, because literally the sequence is like shot for shot a remake of Raiders. And I took it as like the studio sort of like not cashing their check, calling their shot of like, you want us to make an Indiana Jones game for you? Because it narratively functions as like, okay, it happens after this, but also from like a design perspective, it's like, look at how we can make Dr. Jones so real, and this is what you're going to be doing, and like it's like half familiar, half new. And I think like that's kind of like the working idea I have about like adapting a character this strong into a like an interactive medium is like, you know what Indiana Jones is all about. But like you can't really take for granted what it means to like embody those choices, or like it's I think there's an interesting puzzle of like, what is an Indiana Jones game? And like do you think that this game answers that question successfully?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get into a lot of things I don't think this game nailed, but if I was going to pinpoint, like, did they nail Indiana Jones's vibe, and did they nail the writing and the shots, and what probably the plot of an Indiana Jones game might be, or even like if you imagine another Indiana Jones movie would have been or could have been, I think they nailed all of that stuff. The music, the look of it, the plot, the writing, the voice acting is great. All that stuff feels very on brand.
Sure. And I think like the cinematics are an easy thing to point to for all of that stuff, of like it has the pacing of how this character interacts with other characters, like what kinds of jokes he's into.
Yeah.
And like you're saying about the music too, like it's not just as simple as like play the Indiana Jones cues. It's like, it's how the game uses different cues in different ways. So it's like there is all this like aesthetic stuff that goes into like rendering the world of Indiana Jones in a way that like I think I keep hammering on this notion of like we all know Dr. Jones. We all have a passing familiarity with Indiana Jones, but I think like actually contending with like, oh yeah, what is the fabric of Indiana Jones, the character? It's like, oh yeah, it's like mid-century American, an American guy going to different exotic places. Like it's like this very like American perspective on like the history of the world and how interesting it is, and like I don't know. And I think this game like is bringing to the forefront in a way that, because when you're watching the movies, you're just watching the movies, and it's like, this is what this story is. But the game like has all these concerns about like you like having you do all those sorts of like embody an American in a different place. And I don't know like where I'm going with that exactly, but it's like that's kind of something that like I wasn't or what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna ask you, like, did you feel like Indy when you were playing?
Well, yeah, that's the like that was another. I don't mean to answer. I don't mean to be shifty, but I was gonna. I'll answer your question with like what. That's why my question was like, what does it like? What is an Indiana Jones game? Like, what makes?
But I'm not even asking about a game. Like, were you?
I
Not
did not feel like
necessarily.
I was.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I didn't
That's
feel
what
like
I'm
I
asking.
was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It had the
Okay.
Mario effect on me of like,
Which is what?
I'm helping out this guy on the screen. I'm
Mm,
performing Indiana Jones. Like I don't feel like I'm
yeah.
making choices of like, ooh, I'm gonna do
What
this
would
the way
Indy
Indy
do?
would.
Yeah.
It's like the pile of choices that you're given as a player are like just Indiana Jones's choices. And like
Mm,
maybe that's the trick of it, that it's like, but I'm actually motivating it, you know, but it's like you only have like a specific toolkit. Like the whip,
right.
I don't want to dive right into the whip, but it's
Why not?
like,
The whip me.
because the whip, I mean, the whip, I started fidgeting with the whip as the game went on. As the game went on, I just started like just whipping constant. Like anytime I was bored, I would just be whipping. And like, that's not Indiana. I don't even care that that's not Indiana Jones. I think I was more just invoking the whip as like, it's one of the more straightforward, like,
Yeah.
if you want to be Indiana Jones, one of your tools should be the tool that he uses, which is whip. What does he do with whip? He swings with whip and he hits boys with whip.
This is
So
like
that's
a
what you do in the game.
This is like a big topic, and I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg. But
Yeah.
I had like specifically in my notes, I have "Am I Indy?" followed by "Role playing Indiana Jones is fun," followed
Sure.
by
Yeah.
"I find myself nodding at the other priests as if that's helping my cover." Like I'm literally
Oh.
like moving my controller and like bowing at the priest. Like I was joking with Shane. I was like, I almost wish my microphone was on and I had to say like "Buongiorno" in order to like keep my cover or something
Sure.
like that when you're in the Vatican.
They like clock your accent and like,
Right, exactly.
don't.
But then
Yeah,
there's
sure.
other times where, and maybe this is just, you know, part of having a video game podcast that we're not used to, but like there's other times when it feels like homework. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not really, not that I'm hating it, like, or just not doing it, which is how I treated homework, but more in the sense of like,
Hell yeah.
I'm not fucking around. And two things, I feel like it's really fun in this game specifically
to fuck around.
And
Yeah.
the other thing is that Indiana Jones would be fucking around.
Yeah.
He's a fucking clown. Like he
Yes.
would like take a bite of a biscotti and throw a guitar at a Nazi and like, you know what I mean? Like,
and sort of look around just like, ooh, what am I going to do here?
whoa, I lost my hat, you know? And it's just like,
Right. Yeah.
but like there are times when I was playing where I found myself just like, I just gotta get through this. Like I'll just, you know,
Mhm.
get to the end of this so I can see this cutscene and move on to the next zone or whatever. And then I would like slow down and be like, wait a second, like I'm supposed to be doing the dumbest shit because that is like what this game is, sort
Yeah.
of.
I think like, yeah, it was, there would be beats in this game where I remembered I think it's like what you're talking about of like remembering that you can mess around. And
Yeah.
like, I think the game design does want the player to like choose between messing around or following the story, which is like a super modern game design. Like that's like a baseline thing in a lot of modern games. Just like play your own way. Like critical path, like sure, like go to one of four corners of this huge map.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to, otherwise you can just dink around. But like this game, it does, I think, feel a little more linear than other like more modern games I've played. But I would argue like to its benefit. Like there's aspects of this game that I think like are like so gamely. Like it is like so focused in terms of just like, this is the challenge that we're doing right now. Focus on this.
Yeah.
And like, I think the game tries to open you up into areas that are like, okay, you're allowed to mess around now. And like, because I write in my notes several times about how well the game like navigates between those two spaces. Like you'll seamlessly go from messing around to like, okay, it's time to focus, and the game is totally ready for you to focus.
Yeah.
I think the inverse happens a little more rarely. Like it doesn't that often just be like, if you're on the linear path, like the game will like thread you into the linear path more and more and more. And like, it gets harder and harder to break out of the momentum of that. And,
Yes, I agree with
and
that.
sure. Um, so I don't know, like so am I getting a sense from you that like how did you feel about like the linear balance, the way that the
Yeah.
linear and open-ended stuff were balanced?
I think I had a really hard time with it. I think that it didn't quite jive with me the way I wish it would have. Like I want to be upfront, and I think you feel the same way, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like this is a good fun game.
Yeah, yes.
And
Yeah,
like that's I
I
want to
love
get
this
that
game.
out there because I think for a lot of what we're going to talk about in the next hour to 2 hours, whatever the hell ends up happening is going to be like, oh, I didn't like this, or like this didn't work for me, or blah blah blah.
Sure.
But like part
Sure.
of the where all of that frustration comes from is that it's good and fun, and I wish it was just like a little better in this way or that way, and I would have
Mm-hmm.
loved it. You know what I mean? It's like that's why it's like a little more frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
found myself early on when you're in Vatican, which is like the first big area that you're in. Um, the sorts of questions I was asking myself in the notes and whatnot were just like, is this an exploration game? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
this open world? What even is open world? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I've
Why
ever,
do I play video
yeah,
games?
like I don't even know if I've ever really played an open world game. So I'm curious for you to answer that question. But
Mm.
some of the examples that I had was sort of like, okay, so for combat, you can pick up basically anything with a
Mm-hmm.
handle or a stick attached to it and use it as a melee weapon. But you can't whip anything unless it says press right bumper on it.
Super gamey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like I
totally.
can't
It's
pet or
it's
ride the camel in Giza.
I don't so I think with a lot of open world games these days, like there's a lot of games that are very like systems heavy and they're about like different I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm thinking about Zelda, baby, as
So
maybe
what?
I
Breath
always
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, Tears of the
Yeah,
Kingdom.
I
These are
haven't played them.
games. Okay. So it's short version is like there are games that have like all these like interactive like physics and chemical systems that sort of
Okay.
like bump into each other and like chance like situations
Yeah.
occur.
Yeah.
This isn't a game with like deep chance like situation. I mean,
Almost
the ch-
none.
the chance like situation is comes down to like how the player maneuvers the world kind
Right.
of.
Right.
And that is fun. Like I
That's
really
cool.
like that. Like
Yeah.
that's I could run my mouth about like how that jives with rendering Indiana Jones, you know, because
Yes.
it's like Indiana Jones just figures shit out and has to like orient himself around difficult
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
And because what I'm thinking about now is like a situation where like I accidentally stole something I wasn't supposed to, and then someone's like, hey, and then I run away, and then I discover a platform, and it's like, ooh, I can whip up there. If you're just like slowly moving through the level and it's like, oh, I have to whip over a hole. That's a little different from like, fuck, what do I do? Oh, I can whip that.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Those
I
are
think,
so different in practice. It's like
yes.
key to
Yeah.
point that out because I was feeling the latter a lot. Like, oh, I'm
Of
crawling through this hole. Oh, how do I get
sure.
fucking the right button, right
Ding dong.
bumper icon is on this. That's how I solve the
Sure.
trap or whatever.
I started catching myself like literally without thinking, just like looking up because
I was looking up all the time.
I could just sense like, oh, they're probably gonna make me whip.
It's probably
And
a thing.
I'm
Yeah.
not trying to hate on the game. I think it's like the game is trying to organize, like we're talking about, like linear ideas and open-ended ideas, but it's not a systems-driven game. It's like a pretty like it's enemy AI, it's architecture,
Oh my God, the AI.
it's the AI is kind of blunt, right? Like it just sort of
It's
they
the
just chase you and
dumbest
throw shit at
AI.
you.
It's like the dumbest AI I've played in a
Yeah.
long time. Like
It's yeah.
like
I
to
don't-
come from whenever I played Last of Us like 2 years ago
Mhm.
to like this, and they're both like sorta 3D stealth games in their own ways.
Sure.
And like this game, like you can like shoot a Nazi in the face, and the guy 5 feet away from you won't even notice.
Sure.
Like it's fucking insane.
I mean, and to that point, like I would sort of argue on the game's, well, I mean, but it's not even arguing on the game's behalf. It's like I tend to think of that as the game doesn't really incentivize direct action or combat. So like downstream from that is like the system, like the routines of the AI
Yeah.
characters, like the juice of the game doesn't. I'll say that straight up. Like I do not think the juice of this game comes from combat.
Oh,
Like the juice
totally not. The
comes
combat
from
sucks.
like, yeah, like so by virtue of that, then the AI just has to be like, we gotta get you, like just run straight at character.
Yeah.
Like stick to their routines or run straight at you.
Oh my God,
like
there's so much you're saying that, and I don't know which direction to go in for like what I want to say.
I stopped looking at my notes because we'll look at our notes when we. What direction do you want to go in right now?
Well, just the most recent thing you said, I think, is interesting to talk about because, you know, they in their press and all that bullshit, they say it's a 3D action adventure game, but it's not. It's a stealth game. I think
it's a 3D adventure game. Yeah, you do actions.
I struggle to even say adventure. Like to me, it's like a stealthy movie. I was reading an interview with the creative director. There's 3 hours, 45 minutes of cutscenes.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
That's 2
Longer
Indiana
than a
Jones
film.
movies.
Yeah.
Back
totally.
to back. But the stealthiness I have a problem with because it there's
You have a problem with the stealthiness. You don't
I
like
have
the
a problem with
stealthiness.
the stealthiness. I do like it. Let me start with the good, which is that when I was being really stealthy in different parts of the game where there's soldiers all around or whatever and I have to sneak, was often when I broke through from taking the game too seriously to fucking around. Because I'd get caught and then I'd push this guy over the edge and then I'd throw a bottle at him. I'm like, oh, I forgot this is like a dumb, funny
So the fact
thing.
that the game was pushing you into playing stealthy sort of like restricted you in a way that
it awoken me to like the true fun of the game in a way.
Okay.
But the other side of the coin is, what is a stealth game if the stakes for getting caught are nothing ever?
Sure.
Like the stakes are, I reset my checkpoint from 10 seconds ago.
Very recent, yeah.
Or I just like run around the corner and crouch and they just like lose aggro.
Sure.
Like nothing ever happens. Like there's an option to carry the body and you're like, oh, this is going to be like Metal Gear Solid.
I don't know if that system is built out. You
why
know,
would you ever do that? Aside from like funny physics.
Well, I started when I was early on in the game, like I would try and put the bodies in places that were like out of the way.
Out of sight.
And like, but at a certain point it became like they're either going to discover it or not. And like, I have no understanding of, like I would just hear like, there's been a body over here. Like, 50 feet away. And it was just like, wait, like I'm not concerned, but also like what? Like it's
very incomplete stealth because I just think the base level of stealth games has to be if you get caught, bad thing happens.
Sure.
Like that is like the 1-to-1. This is like the cornerstone of the game, and that just never happens in this game.
I want to stay focused on the stealth because I think it's worth continuing to interrogate, but I am sort of cooking up like a grander theory of like this game being about just like this handsome man or like having to squeeze himself into different situations with stealth as like a stealth sequence is basically the same type of sequence as the whip. Like, how am I going to get up this thing? By whipping. And it's like, it just happens to have moving pieces, kind of. Like, it's like the game wants you to just be like in this place, looking around, figuring out what to do physically in this place that you've been put in. Like, it's not about, like, I never feel, like, literally, I don't even think about, I think you're right, because I wasn't even thinking, like, this stealth is good or bad. I just like wasn't really thinking about the stealth. Yeah. I was just doing it as part of a whole suite of
like a
things
routine
that I was doing. Yeah. Like you are dancing with like the routine of the AI in the same way that you're dancing with like the architecture of like a map layout.
Yeah, and again, like I'm not saying it's bad. I just want to make that clear because like my note that I'm like looking at right now is the stealthiness is really low stakes, but in a funny way. Because like again, like I would like get caught and get beat, knocked out, and then again I go to my checkpoint from 10 seconds ago. And then I would just sprint right through the middle of the entire level. And every single Nazi's throwing rocks and clubs at me. And they're so dumb and slow. And I just like, or I just beat all of them up because the combat is ridiculous and stupid. And you just get through it. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of funny, you know?
Yeah, it's I mean, I had this whole theory about the stealth, like in terms of it, like, truly, like literally what you're saying, that there is no fail state.
Yes.
But I had like a more high-minded, like, what is Indiana Jones? Like, I believe that there's no fail state because it's like...
Because it's Indiana Jones?
Because it's Indiana Jones. Yeah. Because like
he's
Indiana
a superhero,
Jones,
basically.
Not even he's a superhero. It's more that like in the films, I think there are sequences where it's like he's about to do something badass, and then a Nazi looks at him like, what are you doing? And then he has to be like, oh, and then it becomes like slapstick comedy.
That
happens pretty often in this game. Is like you botch a stealth and then you're just running like, whoa.
I mean, neither, we didn't say this at the top. Neither of us beat the game.
No.
But in my whatever amount of hours I played, I have like 25 screenshots minimum of just like really funny things happening.
Situations.
Which is very indie. I mean, but if I was going to like get up on my high horse and be like, this is what I would critique about the game, like I was saying just now about the stealth, and this could open it up to go whatever direction you want it to go. What I wrote down in my notes is it's sort of jack of all trades, master of none, the game.
Yeah.
They kind of just have this like amazing graphics and a good story and good acting and good IP. And they just kind of slapped all this video game shit on top of that. Yeah. And we're like, this will work because it's a video game. And they just were like, there'll be stealth and hand-to-hand combat and platforming and exploring and open world and linear and a movie and side quest, like just
well, it begs the question then. I'm going to ask it to you straight. What do you think like the core of this game is then? Like, what do you... Because I have my own ideas about like what I think this game is like trying to do and like what it's about. But like what... Because like I hear what you're saying, that it is like all these different component pieces and like each of those discrete play pieces is playful and like fun enough on its own. Like at no point was I like feeling like I'm bored, this sucks.
Never felt bored in this game.
It was always just like, I'm gonna try this out. Ooh, I'm gonna try this out.
Even the like fetch quests that we would have been complaining about in like Majora's or something, or not Majora's, Ocarina or something, like it's straight up a fetch quest. It's like, take a photo of this, bring it to Antonio, whatever. Even that, I'm like, jumping from the roof, died.
It's like, just an excuse to like
play.
Sorry, I want to hear what you think of the. I'm just gonna say what I think.
Yeah, just tell me what you think.
I've already said, which is like, I think the actual core of the game is just like, one, Indiana Jones stuff. But two, like more importantly, it's the core of like being an avatar in richly detailed situations that you can deal with pretty immediatit Like it is about just trying to jump over a thing or hit a thing or throw a thing. Like it is not, because I haven't even talked about like immersive sims as a genre. I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about how this game like kind of feels like a highfalutin Nintendo game. I didn't even write this explicitly in my notes. In my notes, all I wrote about here, I got a whole provocative question, but truly, this game it feels a lot more immediate to me than, I mean, well, do you want to talk about Sims?
I don't know anything about them, so you tell me about them.
But the point related to the Nintendo thing is that it feels, there's points where I felt like I was messing around like in a Mario game because I was just like bonking around a discrete space, just like climbing on things and throwing things at guys and being like, oh, I wonder if this guy will hear me. And it wasn't like, I have to get past this guy. It was just like, what's that guy gonna do when I do this? And it never goes that deep. It's just like guy hears sound and goes, "Hey, what's that?" And then walks over, and then you just like jump him. Like it's not.
Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna try and answer your question on the spot, I mean, I do think it's basically that. I think the core of the game is that role playing as Indiana Jones is fun. Straight up, I think that's the game. Like why you have to ask yourself, like, why is this game first person? This should be a third person game. It's Indiana fucking Jones. Like it should look like Tomb Raider. Like it should, like be that kind of game. You should see Harrison Ford all the time, right? Like doing crazy shit. I think part of why it's first person is because that, like, I mean, whether it works or doesn't work is a different topic, but I think it like breaks immersion, and you're supposed to be Harrison Ford doing silly shit, reacting to what you see, like you said, fucking around,
and this
no consequences.
This isn't a film podcast, but it's like I would maybe try to argue then that like the character and these movies, and like I don't want to run my mouth too much, but like Steven Spielberg as a filmmaker is like literally contending with like strong characters contending with things right in front of them, kind of. And like maybe that's just what Indiana Jones is.
That's what he is
like a guy in a situation reacting, just threading reactions. Like Indiana Jones is like a shallow, he's like got this weird depth of like, oh, this is ancient Sumerian, blah 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 blah. But like moment to moment he's just like, oh, I gotta do this now. Oh jeez, I gotta. That's why he's always losing his damn hat, because like if he loses his hat, he doesn't know what to do. Like he doesn't know how to react to actually losing a hat, because like I don't know. I don't mean to be popping off this much about, but it's like this is vital to this game, I think, too. Like
it is.
You're some guy in a situation doing things like in as blunt as that is.
Yeah, that's like, what it is. That's what like they must have boiled it down to when they're conceiving of this game and like what it should be. I think that's key. I think that like what I was saying before with Jack of all trades, master of none, is where a lot of the bloat and stuff that I don't like exists in sort of that like nether realm of like I sent you a clip before we started, like just open the fucking door. Don't make me turn the goddamn handle. It doesn't make me feel like Harrison Ford.
This game
just open the door.
In a game that forgoes all sorts of other immersive details, some of the details it does choose to like be immersive are just like,
it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's okay. Like there's a camera pop-up that happens every 8 to 10 seconds once you buy the camera.
Can I run my mouth about the camera a little bit?
Yeah, let me just finish, because I was just going to say that...
Go for it.
Sometimes the camera's vital. You have to do a fetch quest with the camera. When you look at clues... when you look at puzzles, you can like get clues from the camera. I think that's like a fine interaction. But 99% of the time, if the camera pops up, you whip out your camera, you take a picture of something, and you just get like indie bucks or points or whatever they're called that do fucking nothing.
Like maybe you're gonna upgrade something. I did not really dive too much into the upgrade system.
I can't even imagine like what I would upgrade. It's not that kind of game.
Whip strength.
Yeah, like whip length.
Kill whip.
Yeah, like stamina by one like bar. Well, like
speaking of the whip, what you're describing sounds like also what you're describing about like how the whip functions in the game is that like there's a prompt and you do the whip.
It's the only time you
do the whip. Like
only time you whip is that.
So I love the camera. Like I like in the same way that I was fidgeting with the whip, I started fidget. I mean, I love it in the way that I love the visual design of this game. Yeah. Like I love just like the raw information overload of this game. Like the level of fidelity in this game, I wrote it in my notes, it is
insane.
Fetishistic. It is a fetishistic level of detail.
I've never played anything that looks even half as good. It's fucking crazy.
And so there's just Like, and that's maybe you can bake that into like what the character is and what he cares about, because Indiana himself like loves there's nothing he loves more than finding a relic.
Yeah.
Looking at a thing that he found in a tomb.
Yep.
And when some guy takes his cat mummy that he found, oh no, you got to give me back my thing I found.
Listen, giant.
But at the same time, as I'm playing it, I'm just like, I want to look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff. So the camera was just for me a shorthand for like prioritize it. Yeah. It was just like a mechanical look around. So I would like frame up photos and take them, and knowing in the back of my mind, like this game would have told me if it actually had like a save your photos feature.
It's interesting that you love that, because it's like we're talking about the camera in polar opposite ways.
Sure.
Because I'm talking about how the game like jams the camera down your throat, and you're talking about like just having fun with the camera and take a picture of this cat because it looks cool or whatever. Which is another weird, like, and maybe it would be different if I was like playing on Xbox, but whenever something funny or cool is happening, I took a screenshot.
The camera of the computer,
of my my screen, like my POV. I was never thinking like, oh, I should pull out the camera and look at this like funny ragdoll physics. You know what I mean?
For some reason, it was one of the immersion tricks that really worked for me. It was framing up photos and just because it was literally just like focus, because like there's so much detail in the game that focusing on anything kind of feels absurd, because it's like everything is so detailed. So like the camera was just an excuse to like be like, I'm gonna look at this. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look, like there's all these like paintings and sculptures in the game.
It's incredibly.
And I said to my partner,
like,
and that's work done by artists on the game, even if they're like re-rendering an existing thing. And also, I just wanted to clarify that like, as much as we're coming at the camera totally differently, I was a little hung up on the camera in regards to, because I wanted it to just be a full fusion of like, ooh, what if I'm looking around and I find something cool and I click it and I randomly get indie bucks? You know? That's one thing.
That would be cool.
But the way the game functions is it gives you and you learn pretty quickly, oh, it just tells me when to take a photo. When I need to take a photo.
There is like a little bit, and again, like I keep coming around the same, I think, topic, which is my overall topic, which is like there's too much bloat. They tried too many things. The scope was too wide and unfocused. But for example, with the camera, there are cool little side quests. You hear a nun just be like, oh, I wish I had a photo of Father Antonio. And I'm like, I have a fucking photo of him. Like, you know, like random shit like that, where you're just like, of course I took a photo of that, and you can just give them to them. And of course, all you get are indie bucks. But it felt gamey in a way that's appealing, as opposed to a pop-up with a sound anytime there's something capturable, which is just like, what am I doing? Like, this is so on rails. There's 4 hours of cutscenes. Like, just give me another one if you want me to do this or something like that.
To look at this information. Like, why are you telling me that I'm interacting with the information when like really I'm just like lock key the end?
Like the cutscenes, I think sometimes are very good. I just, an hour before we started, got to a really good Voss cutscene in Giza. It was the
main
bad guy. The Nazi. And it was sick. It felt like I was watching an Indiana Jones clip. It was a great cutscene.
Yeah.
Other times, the cutscenes are like
video game trash.
Literal trash.
Like,
you complete a puzzle, you access the secret room, you have to investigate the secret room for clues.
Gina sort of clips through something.
Yeah, she clips through the wall. And then how does it actually play out is you press X on the thing that you're supposed to press X on that's highlighted in white. And then you watch a short cutscene. And then the cutscene ends, and then you press X on another thing, and then you watch a short cutscene.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, this is the cutscene for the room. Now go play in the room.
Yeah, I think it's because the game is trying to juggle like
too many things.
it's trying to juggle a lot of different goals. And I think the goal it does maybe best and worst is the thing that I was trying to sketch out earlier, which is like you're a guy doing things you're in a situation and you are interfacing with the world around you.
Yeah.
And like
I think that's right.
when it like feels like you made it happen, it's really exciting. But when it feels like you have to do it, it feels like insulting and stupid. And like environmental puzzles are sort of like a good space for us to talk about like how, like, because you verbalized something to me off mic about like not being good. I think you said it in the Discord in public of all places that you're bad at the puzzles. And I was kind of with the puzzles like these aren't puzzles. These are like really
obstacles,
really clear systems that I have to execute.
Yeah,
like
it was.
I like that they're placed, but I don't really like them as like experiences unto themselves.
Yeah,
kind,
like
or
the
like
thing
I just
that
didn't
I
even
was
think about it. Sorry,
bad
continue.
at was just like a lever that I didn't see because I like moved too quickly. I was like a step up where I was supposed to be standing, where I would have seen the lever. So I was just like running around. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, oh, I found the lever and I turned it.
Sure.
Then I thought the puzzles were kind of enjoyable. Like under the fountain, when I wrote my notes, it's like I sort of feel like India and I feel like I'm playing a fun video game for the first time.
Yeah.
Like I think these 3D puzzles are pretty good. I wish Gina would stop giving me hints, but it feels kind of Ocarina. Oh, bounce the light, like whatever. I'm like, I could be down with this. And then there's other times where I don't know if you did this, but there was this bookcase puzzle. And I was like, I was like kind of into it while it was happening. You like pull a book out, for like a secret door kind of situation, and it doesn't work. And then you find a note on the desk and you have to like put it together.
It's like an information puzzle.
Information puzzle.
It's like a text information puzzle.
Yeah,
as opposed
and
to
I
like
was like,
visual information.
Right.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I'm kind of into this. Like, I like this. And then what do you get? Indie bucks. It leads to literally nothing. And like, I shouldn't have even wasted my time.
Did you feel satisfaction of putting together the puzzle though?
A little bit, but you expect they miss on like the exploration. I feel like they miss all the time. They're like, you were mentioning how a lot of the good parts are like linear, and I feel like they're like pretending it's an exploration open world game when it's really not in a lot of ways.
It's a bunch of linear sequences nested into like an interconnected. Sorry, you keep going. You keep going.
No, I was just gonna wrap that up by saying like you almost never actually get rewarded for going off of the beaten path, like off of the on rails path. Like it's often just like a straight up dead end, or like you can't go here. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go back. Sorry.
Okay, I'll turn around.
I'm apologizing to the game. Like, oh, sorry. Like I went crazy there. And you don't get like, in other games, and I'm not saying they should have this, but you might get an item or an upgrade or some really good consumable or something, where in this game, it's like anything outside of the main game, you're getting indie bucks.
You're getting indie bucks.
There's nothing else.
Yeah, maybe a bandage.
Maybe a bandage. Yeah.
Well, it's like, why does the game feel like it has to be beholden to linear, like blunt linear choices? Like, I think that's what the game wants to be. Like, it does. I don't think the game wants to be this like really deep emergent, like the emergent situations are not that complex, like period. And like, that's okay if that's what they wanted to
totally
make.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's, and I think that's why I was trying to invoke earlier the notion of immersive simulators, or what is it? Immersive sim, but immersive simulator sounds so stupid.
Immersive simulation.
Immersive simulation.
Yes.
I had a whole line written about like Deus Ex, pray for the discerning wide flank listener.
Flankers.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not like that game.
You're gonna have to listen to that episode to find out. But the one I wanted to talk most about is Hitman, and we usually don't try to compare.
I'm so happy you're bringing up Hitman though. I have that listed.
Because Hitman is a game with like such depth to the situations and systems and routines and it is still as like physical as this game is. And I'm not even saying Hitman's better. I think it's like they have very different goals. Like,
yeah.
I think this game wants you to be a dum-dum bonking around, having a nice time, watching a cutscene. Like, it is like, it's a fucking Steven Spielberg movie. And Steven Spielberg makes sophisticated films that also operate as just like, E.T. go home. Like, like they're very, like there's multiple levels you can engage with it. And I think like a criticism I'm leveraging at this game as I'm rambling and talking is like, no, because I didn't. No, I don't. No. I was fine with the level of depth of this game. Like, I was happy. I was content to just bonk around.
Yeah.
Throw a thing at a guy. Move on to the next thing.
Totally.
Clamber up a thing. Take a photo of a pretty statue. Hear fascists say spaghetti.
Yeah.
Laugh. Like,
put your hand in the thing. Classic indie.
Yeah. What's my big bit? Because we zoomed right, because we were supposed to be talking about like what is Indiana, but it's like we just went right into it. But found a tomb, time to open the tomb. Classic indie. Found a hole, stuck my hand in a hole. Classic indie.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that, well, I'm not sure if we're not aligned here, but it's what I keep harping on more than you. Whereas that, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's just a little unfocused.
Sure.
I also had fun every single time I played the game. I had laughed every single time I played the game.
Yeah.
I like the plot. I like the acting. I like interacting with all this shit. It's just like, I've never played Hitman. I've never played I've never played a great stealth game. I have in my notes. This makes me want to try two types of games. One, a great stealth game. Is that Hitman? Is that Thief? The other one is, what's that first person parkour game? Kind of want to try that too.
Mirror's Edge, dude.
Literally, this
Mirror's Edge rocks, dude.
But part of that is because this game like does
it's somewhere
neither.
Between those two.
It just barely tip of the icebergs, both of them. It's like, yeah, there's a little stealthy shit in here, and like there's some parkour. Like, that's why I was struggling at the beginning when I was like, they call themselves an action adventure game. There's not that much action, and there's not much adventure. Like, when I hear adventure game, I'm like, oh yeah, I loved fucking Pitfall on Super Nintendo. That's a fucking action game. And
sure.
Yeah, like swinging, jumping, bump up. That's action. That's adventure. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And I think like they sort of don't know what this game is, and it's just a little unfocused. But it's good and it's fun, and I like playing it.
I think I'm coming at it in terms of like, I can sort of clock that this game isn't that deep.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like untangle like where is the depth? Where is the core of the game? Where is the depth of the game? And I think like optimistically, it's like the effect of the assemblage of all these jack of all trades things.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, because like it's not like it doesn't want to be like a specific genre experience. I don't think. Like I think it wants to be an Indiana Jones simulation experience comprised of quips, puzzles, tombs.
It just has
a whip,
everything.
Yeah, and like it, and I think, but at the same time, you asked the question earlier, did I ever feel like Indiana Jones? And it's like, no, not really. I just feel like I'm witness to a rendering of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Me as a player, I'm fidgeting with the whip. I'm taking photos of the geometry.
Yeah.
Like it's those were my choices as a player, was to just like we're talking about like messing around in the game.
Yeah, and that was all great, right? Like there are fun stealth moments where I really feel my body tense up and I'm like, oh fuck, shit, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, this guy. And then
sometimes it works. So
and then you run right into a cutscene. I'm like, oh yeah, put my controller down.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I gotta watch this, and I'm out of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
And I think I want to like celebrate the cutscenes a little bit
they're
because
good.
like
They're
because
well done.
of the modern games that I've played, it's like, wow, the level of animation, the quality of the writing,
And
most
acting.
vocal performances are like great in most games now.
Oh, is
like
that a thing? Yeah,
like voice actors are like
they're good.
really
They're
solid
legit
performers.
Yeah,
And yeah, like as like a space.
because they were great in this game. Really great.
It's Troy Baker. We didn't call him out yet, but it's not Harrison Ford. It's Troy Baker.
But it sounds like Harrison Ford to me.
It just sounds like and I think like when the game is so concerned with like we're going to show you a bunch of cool Indiana Jones style writing and it does such a good job of that, I'm like, you know what? I'm more okay with that than I am like I'm trying to pluck a specific reference out of my hat, but I usually don't gel with like these kinds of like modern single player games that try to thread everything together all at once.
Yeah.
Like I was about to shit on God of War, but I haven't played God of War, and like I don't I don't want to shit on any of these games, but I'm just gonna like just imagine a modern single player game where like the game design is way stronger, and then the cutscenes are like embarrassing garbage, and it's like, what happened here? I think I kind of prefer, if we're playing this kind of modern game, for it to sort of be like a good job all over the place rather than like, oh, this one thing's really interesting. Like, wow,
but these sucked and it was so bad.
Like that goofs me up way more than like, oh, this is all like kind of like doesn't go. Well, this was a question I wanted to ask you. Like, did you want the game mechanics to go deeper? Like, did you want them? Because you're talking about like how close the game gets to.
I think so, but those were all in like isolated moments. Like there would out of nowhere be like a good action sequence. Okay. Where like I did have to run because they're very few and far between. Where it's not just like walk slowly up to this, whip this, shimmy through this by pressing A. Like that, nothing fucking happened. There's no action in this game, but sometimes there would be, and then I'm like, "Fuck, that was fun." I kind of want to do that more. Or there's a good stealth sequence, and I'm like, "Oh, that was kind of cool." Like that's kind of why I was like, "This makes me want to play these other types of games that like." Do this better, do that better, do that better, do that better.
Point of fact, I do not think twice about the cutscenes. The point of this podcast is not to just be like, this part of this game sucks. But I think the reality is when I'm playing those Hitman games, like I do not care about the cutscenes. There's all this lore about like, who is Agent 47 and this organization. And it's like, I don't care. I just want to get to the immersive like little stories in the world. But this game, anytime anything was happening, I was showing up for it. When a cutscene happened, I was like, ooh boy, I get to watch my Indiana Jones TV show now.
Yeah. Well, that,
like there was such a bar of quality.
I had this as a question for you. Should this just be a movie? Shouldn't this have just been a movie? Why isn't this a movie?
An animated film or like a live action film?
Someone else plays Harrison Ford and it's a live action new Indiana Jones movie. Like, why not?
Pacing, probably, or like something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, basically, my point is just like, I liked all of it too, but like, if it's not really going deep or executing that well in any of the game stuff, like what are we even doing making a game here?
A game.
Like why is this a game?
Well, I mean, we were gonna have to talk about it eventually. I got a friend who years ago. Have I said this on the pod before? I might have said this on the pod before.
You're setting it up like it's a really big thing.
This is like a gamer friend of mine. A man, I can say his, maybe he doesn't want me to say his name.
Okay.
He's got, no, I don't mean to make jokes, but I have a friend that was like a very, like he was like a professional fighting game player.
Whoa.
He loves like Battle Brothers. I
don't even know what that is.
He loves all these like hard mechanical games.
Okay. And Sekiro or some shit? Or
not even. I don't think he has much regard for the From Software games. He's never talked about them. But the point is like he's like hella good at King of Fighters. The point is that he used to talk about story and gameplay as like there's this toy that's like a canary, like a bird and a cage on either side of a coin, and you like rotate it really fast to make it look like the illusion of a bird in a cage.
Okay.
And my hard gamer friend's philosophy was like, you can like really make the illusion really clear, but it's always going to be illusion. Like there will never be like a truly seamless blend between story and gameplay. I don't believe that myself, because I think, you know, you listen back to the dev talk. Prush was talking about the last week's episode that we just put out. There was like such clear aspects of that game we were talking about called 1,000 Deaths that were like, oh, this gameplay mechanic is reflective of the narrative information.
Yeah.
Maybe less so in reverse.
But
like
maybe
unclear.
your friend is saying that like that's part of the illusion. It's like, yeah, once you dig really deep, you see that X comes from Y. But when you play the game, you just play the fucking game and you don't know this thing. You have to like the where this came from a narrative perspective is underneath, you know, you have to dig deep for it from the gameplay or something like that. But yeah.
And I think there's also another version of this conversation, which is like why people are such freaks for like the From Software games, because it's like you really have to dig for the story. Like it's baked into the game design in this way.
Yeah.
But I think there is this like tendency with games of this like production budget. Like this is not like, I don't think this is like a visionary thing. It's just like games that are at this production budget trying to reach like a mass audience. It is like for years and years and years, it's been this like climb towards like, how do we render games with like actually good stories and like actually good character.
I mean, Last of Us is definitely like you know, like in a timeline, it was like, I feel like the reviews when that came out and shit were just like, finally video games have reached like a movie level storytelling or something like that.
We're going way off script, but it's like I conceive of that as like the arc of that studio. Like that is the arc of Naughty Dog, because like they start by making like a character platformer, which is just like kind of dinky.
Yeah.
Like Crash Bandicoot is a dinky game, but it's like, oh, that character Crash, so distinct. And then like they move through like the Jack and Daxter series, which are like increasingly like, oh, there's some world here.
Yeah.
And like, because they made Uncharted before they made Last of Us, right? We have not mentioned Uncharted in this conversation yet, because I don't think either of us have played it.
I've never played it. Yeah. But I know
I
that
played
like
the first one once, and it was like, this is kind of just like a bad shooter.
I know Uncharted and Tomb Raider get referenced a lot when you're talking about Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Sure they do. Yeah. It's which I think both of that kind, whatever. That's a whole other conversation, I think. But I think like, I'm not even celebrating Naughty Dog. I'm just pointing to the fact that Naughty Dog clearly like has iterated upon, like they've worked at that question so aggressively for so long. And like maybe Machine Games has as well. Like they made some Wolfenstein games that again
Machine Games
haven't played.
I haven't played the contemporary Wolfenstein games, just the OG. But all they've made are the contemporary Wolfenstein games, Quake expansion, Quake 2 expansion, and a Doom 2 expansion. And these dudes make fucking shooters. Like they make, which is also funny because you never use your gun in Indiana Jones and it doesn't feel like an FPS at all.
The one time I did, it made me feel like gross.
I mean, like for people who haven't played, like using your gun as opposed to just meleeing it's like, there's no reason to ever do it, basically. The only time I did it is when I was getting chased by like many Nazis, and all of a sudden I had a machine gun for the first time, and I was like, okay, I guess we'll just kill all of them. But like, like it's crazy that that group made this game.
Sure.
It was like, I imagine the depth of the Wolfenstein story isn't that emphasized, right? Like OG Wolfenstein is like literally run around and kill Nazis, kill Hitler. Like that's it.
It's pretty clean. Yeah. I haven't played those new Wolfenstein games. I also haven't played Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. Tell me you've played that.
How shocked would you be if I was like, "Oh, I love that game"?
I wouldn't put it past you. People love
Come
that
on,
game.
I don't know any games.
There's crossover in the stat. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's crossover in the staff from that game and this game. And that game too is like famed for being like, it's first person, but you're like exploring spaces. So I think like there is some like human level, like focus on what playful things can we do with beefy men in situations that's not shoot gun.
Yeah, I do want to just interrupt really quick because I did check out Doom Legacy of Rust, which is the
it's a wad
expansion pack they made with a bunch of new maps. It looks fucking sick and it looks cool. But
have you played it? Like, have you scoped out the level designs themselves?
I watched someone playing it. I haven't played Doom 2 since 1995 or something, but yeah.
If we're bringing Doom 2 into the conversation, we're not gonna. This podcast is. But no, it's because I could riff about how like Doom is at its core about a guy in a situation. Like it is like you're a avatar maneuvering situations and reacting nonstop all the time, which is like what this game is, but like with a different paintbrush.
Right. Yeah, sort of is. Yeah.
But Doom's so fast. This game is slow.
That's the thing. This is slow.
A slow game for thought, but it's not for thoughtful people.
It's kind of also better when it's slow, which is a unique feature. It's like
looking around.
Yeah, like that's what I was trying to say earlier when I'm like over intellectualizing, be like, oh, I'm trying to prepare for a podcast and play through this. And then like something happens and I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to fucking jump off this thing because it's fun. And it's like, oh, that was awesome. Or like, oh, I'm just going to read this note and take this photo. It's like, oh, that rules. Yeah.
Like remembering to play the game.
You got to remember to play the game. I mean, I have a lot of negative notes here of like when I wasn't really like this note that I'm looking at right now is literally, this game is called Follow the Yellow Dot. Because that's kind of all you do in terms of advancing the plot. Anytime you have to go towards the main objective, you just run at the yellow dot.
It tells you which door to get to next, and like it's on the player how much they want to engage with that, I think too. Like you can like do your own little bit of game design with the settings to like make it as immersive as you want to be. But like when the option exists, it's sort of like it bleeds through the design, I think, a little bit. Like,
I mean, I'm on default. That's the thing, right? It's like I'm not on like super easy, tell me everything, please mode. Which like again, like I understand people will say like, well, just put it on hardcore death mode and then it won't help you at all. And every Nazi one-shots you, and it's a FromSoft game. And it's like, well, that's not what I'm doing here.
That's
right?
not
like,
it either.
Like, if my food at a restaurant is bland, they made bad food. The answer shouldn't be like, well, just put as much salt and pepper as you want on it until it tastes good. I'm like, well, you still made bad food, I don't know.
Yeah. I think the game is like trying to appeal to it. It is a big budget game that has to recoup. Yeah. I'm not an industry analyst, but I think the concerns of this game are just like what. I don't want to use the phrase lowest common denominator because this game
use it.
This game is better than that though. Like I really like this game. Like I like it as what it is.
That's like where we disagree almost.
I think
not
so.
To be it's not that. I wouldn't say this game is better than that, but I would say this game's more fun than that.
Okay.
Sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I was talking about the phrase though, lowest common denominator, which is like a real sketchy, slippery slope of like, come get the slop game, you idiots. People are so stupid. And it's no, like people know when a game is like totally heartless, like people are not stupid.
What would you say to someone, or even me, if I came on the podcast or you were just talking to someone casually and they were just like, I fucking hated that game. It just tells you everything to do. I couldn't get into it at all. Like whatever their reasoning is, I don't think my answer would be like, dude, come on, you gotta try it. Like,
Well,
you gotta
yeah,
look at the
no, totally.
bookshelf. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. Like, those things do kind of suck. But there's other
Sure.
fun stuff I like about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
When I contend with people in the real world who like start just saying their critical feeling about a
Yeah.
thing, positive or negative, I tend to just be like, oh, like what do you mean?
Yeah.
Why? Like,
Yeah.
because like, and I'll only pop off with my opinion after like they've talked about it for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because like it's not really about, because like you want to connect with people about like what they what are we talking about at this
I
point?
have no idea.
But,
Listen
but
to the
it's
new cool about connecting with people.
connecting with people. I think, yeah, part of the format of this podcast is like we're each coming with our different ideas
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
game and trying to like arrive maybe at like, what is it about this game that's like interesting or disinteresting or affects us as individuals? And I think maybe I tend to like think about things in terms of like, what is the game going for? Like, what audience are they hoping
Right.
to capture? Because like I
Right.
know that my experience is just like, is my experience matters. It's like the lens through which I engage with the work, but it is not like the final word at all.
Well, yeah, it's like
Like-
that is a interesting thing that we probably won't and shouldn't dive too far into because we've
Yeah.
already been in an hour and a half or whatever. But who's buying this game? Like, who's the target demo? Like, who's
I have
It's
no
like
idea.
Xbox bros or something, or like people who already have Game Pass for COD and are just like, I'll try
I
a
think-
fucking Indiana Jones game.
I think this is a whole other theory. I think, to go back to the start of this episode, talking about how Todd Howard wanted to make an
Todd.
Indiana Jones game and talked to George Lucas.
All
and
comes back to Todd.
Todd got to be a big boy. And like the notion that Todd was an executive producer on this feels like weird, because it's just like, this has nothing to do with Bethesda.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, like
yeah.
this has nothing to do with Elder Scrolls. Like, what are we talking about? But it's, I mean, you could, but the point is that maybe this game is just like a prestige passion project.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, what's up, boys? We love Indiana Jones, right? Right. Let's fucking whip some stuff.
There's a lot.
All
of,
right.
There's a lot of the like pessimistic or optimistic takes you could have from
Yeah.
it because we won't know. But like the other,
Sure.
like maybe this game isn't as huge budget as we think it is. And maybe this was a tester to be like, oh, prove you can make a good Indiana Jones game,
Okay.
and the next one's gonna be 40 hours long and really
Yeah.
flushed out in all of these ways that I don't like that it's not. And like, you know, maybe that's the case. You know, I wouldn't be surprised at that either. Like,
Sure.
oh, we made an original Indiana Jones story that feels like the golden era Spielberg Indiana Jones
we
era.
captured
We
Spielberg's
captured
tone.
the
Yeah.
essence and the
Yeah.
tone of Harrison Ford and Spielberg and
John
it's-
Williams.
we got and John Williams, and we got, you know, good reviews and people love the game, and now we want to
Mhm.
do whatever, you know, like the big one or something. I wouldn't
Our
be surprised if that was
gonzo
it.
Mechanically crazy, but
Yes.
still like,
Yeah.
well, because I think that's like kind of what I was trying to get at too earlier, is that like it's serving, the game is serving all these different goals, but it's
Yeah.
not like rendering the aesthetics of Indiana Jones well is like a simple or frivolous goal. It's like,
It's really hard.
again, to go back to the start of the episode, it's like, how do you adapt like a beloved iconic feature film? Like, how do you do that? Why do you do that?
And also
what? Like,
also it's insane that a game can even attempt to do that.
sure.
Right? Because like
yeah.
Harrison Ford's in this game.
His
Like, I
face
know it's a
looks very
different-
good.
It's a
Yeah.
different voice actor, but he sounds like him. His face looks amazing. He acts like him. The quips, you know, it's written like him. Like
Yeah.
he's like, they actually or like, no, this 1980 whatever 1 or 2 capsule
Yeah.
is like in a time capsule, and we just like opened it for this game.
the music swells like just as it would to reveal like when like Harrison is opening a box or whatever. And like that's, you know, we haven't talked much about the sound, but I feel like we are like arcing towards ending the episode. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
think
like
we are. We
invoke.
definitely are.
I'm just gonna run my mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
about the sound that it's like we have not touched on the sound at all, but I think like the sound is one of the more bulletproof, like setting aside game design, like there are like aesthetic and design choices in the sound, but it's like I think of the sound as one of like the more thoughtful, unique places of the game.
Yeah, they killed it. Absolutely killed it.
The way it shelves music, the way that like all the physical actions sound cartoony, the way that like sound is the game design, like more often than not. Like,
what do you mean?
Playing with sound, I find myself like as I'm playing the game, I like want to think about the sound more than the imagery sometimes. It's like I'm more sussing out the sonic environment than I am the visual environment. And that feels like actually modern and like actually like in a way that's like, wow, look at how many detailed models are in this game. The way that the sound is executed is like something else to my ear and like to my hand.
I think I read it. No, sorry to cut you off, but I think I read it, and I can't find the quote, but I think they literally sampled the Hollywood punch sound from the original Indy Jones movies for the melee punch in this game. Like it's so fucking meaty. It's a sausage fattener punch.
So as stupid as the physical combat feels, it still like feels kind of fun because you're going to.
Yeah, I mean, dude, every time I like crack someone's skull open with my shovel, it feels amazing. Even though like the weapons are basically just all the exact same object with a different skin, and they function in the exact same ways.
Slightly different
like
numbers,
when you first start, it's like, oh, there's 900 things I could beat this Nazi up with, and then when you play, you're just like, these are all the same. Just pick up anything, and they do the same thing.
And they have like different amounts of health, but like and different animations. But basically. I mean, it goes to. I mean, I don't want to gloss over the reality that like sound is such a big part of feel in games. Like to go back to Doom, like the way that the Doom shotgun sounds.
Oh my god.
Like you play WADs where people load in custom sound palettes, and it's just like, this sounds like shit. I don't want to fire this gun.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, and that game is 400 years old. But like this game, like in terms of like space and like the immediate sounds that we're talking about right now, but then like designing the spaces around like using sound, like it can be as simple as just like, they heard my bottle over there. And you saw some jokey review
which is very Last of Us 2, by the way. Like throw a bottle over there and the fucking zombies walk towards it. Yeah.
Sure. You read a review though where somebody was like joking around about how everybody in the game has a cough or whatever.
Every enemy in the game is walking around like sniffling and coughing. So that you know where they are. Yeah.
You know where they are, but it's also like I don't know. I had a really, really good time with the sound, especially because like I expected to have a really good time with like how high level visual the game is. And it's like not really at a certain point. Like it's just like, oh, this is all very detailed. That's nice. But the sound was like consistently like, ooh, what's going on over here? And that's I mean, it's not that simple either because like there's not that many sonic cues in like the dungeons where you're alone solving like a dragon fire puzzle. Like sound is not really. So I think like the game does have the capacity to like use sound and image to like inform all sorts of different things. Anywho, I just wanted to make sure I talked about because I talked about the sound on GLHF too, but it remains
it's fantastic. It's really, really good.
That's the thing I think is like really modern about this game, like the level of sound fidelity, like and like how beholden, like how much the design is oriented around it.
The place where I wanted to go to end it potentially, unless you have more things to add, is just I mentioned earlier, neither of us beat this game. We both sunk enough hours where we felt comfortable talking about it, obviously, but we didn't beat it. But I'm a bit further than you, not a lot. We're in the same area in Giza, but we're not at the same part. It's getting better and better in a way that's surprising to me. Like there's less of the stuff that was bothering me in the Vatican now that I'm in Giza.
So maybe what we're experiencing is like design, like a staggered design of like starting simple.
Yeah, like once I got to Giza and like even just doing some of there's also fetch quests in Giza, right? It's like not that different gameplay wise, but it already felt like, oh, Vatican was kind of tutorializing everything. And Giza feels a little bit more open. I could take it because you're just in the fucking desert. You're like, I can take any path to the Sphinx I want. I can take any path to the pyramids that I want. And it looks, you were mentioning the visuals. This is why it came up, because you're saying the visuals, whatever, they wear down. I like literally, Sharon sitting next to me when I was playing, I was like, dude, look at this. I'm in fucking Egypt. Like, that's how good it looked. I was like, this is fucking sick. And those are the pyramids right there. So I do reserve the right to play more of this game and come back and be like, actually, this game fucking rips.
Well, yeah.
And what if everyone should fucking play this?
Yeah, maybe there is space for Wide Flank to have like a Wide Flank addendum, like a shorter
addendum. Yeah.
This is, this, we don't need to have a meeting on the pod, but
no.
The idea of like a quick like check back in with like, oh yeah, this game we played, it's actually better than we thought.
It's like, even better than we thought, because there's more areas I know that are coming, and there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, but I just wanted to get that in there as like, I wanted to make sure we include the positivity, because like I said earlier, we both like the game. We both enjoy the game. We're both laughing at the game.
The classic Wide Flank format of starting with, we love the game, digging,
shitting on it for an hour.
What a team of 200 people did wrong. Like,
I know better. I've never made any game.
I would have made it more. I'm just like scanning through my notes to see if there's anything else.
No, that's it. Thank you for listening.
You think this game's a Zelda-like?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Nah,
think about that. What? What do you mean?
Let's get out of here. I don't like the scanning notes part of every podcast where we're just like, hey, let's add 10 minutes for no reason.
Why does Indiana Jones look so cool in that stupid hat?
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Wait.
Wide Flank over and out.
Is there any like sort of like what's the word? I'm not talking about the game anymore.
Outro?
I promise. Yeah, like clerical stuff for the end of the episode.
Not really.
Like
I
tune in next time for
stuff
XYZ. Yeah.
That's whatever. Who's getting to the end of this episode? Come on.